were predicted to be flooded. They were flooded. We predicted several of the road tunnels would be flooded and others would not be flooded. Those we predicted flooded. Those we told them that they won't flood did not flood. So not only did we do that, but we also forecasted roughly what the loss amounts would be, how many billions of dollars. And we came out in the order of $50–60 billion. And unfortunately, even that seems to be right.
Perhaps we can discuss the three major ways forward that you've outlined, beginning with protection. What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, protection can take two forms. In a centralized form where you build barriers, like other cities have done, London, Rotterdam, St. Petersburg in Russia, and now Venice coming online soon. There are even smaller cities in the United States that have barriers. The problem with those barriers is that they are not sustainable forever because we have sea level rise and we have to let the rivers out, and when we do that, the ocean equalizes inside and outside the barriers. And so when we have 5 to 6 feet, that means about 1.5 meters of sea level rise, then we start to permanently inundate portions of the city that we are now relying on. So they are good only for a century, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit less. This is not a sustainable solution.
All right, so that leads us on to accommodation. Specifically, what does that mean?
Accommodation means you let the water in and out, and you're prepared to have it coming in and out of your area that you occupy. That means either you have raised your house and it just washes underneath, or for skyscrapers, you build in doors that keep out the water out of the building, or you abandon the lower stories and move the critical infrastructure for buildings into the 10th floor on the top of a building.
But then you also suggest that retreat might be the only option. What do we mean by that?
Retreat is the ultimate and perhaps the only truly sustainable solution. New York City, like other low-lying cities, has the luxury of having high topography. We have the Washington Heights, we have Brooklyn Heights, we have the area around Central Park is high. We need to move a little bit closer together on our high-lying portions of those 4 islands and the one mainland borough, that's the Bronx. So we have actually alternative options from an urban planning point of view that other low-lying cities do not have.
Given that there are many who don't even want to commit recovery funds in the immediate aftermath of Sandy, what hope is there to get the billions of dollars for rational, long-term planning, urban planning, a reimagining perhaps of New York City?
Well, New York City, of course, is not the only city in the country, in the United States, nor, of course, there are many other cities around the world. So when we just look at the United States, those people who deny help now will cry for help later when they are being hit, let's say, by a drought or by a tornado. We all will have to deal with climate change in its various forms. And while for the coastal cities, and New York City is one of the coastal cities, has to deal particularly with storm surges and sea level rise, there are other forms of climate change that have to be addressed. And when those folks cry for help for their needs, then maybe we all realize that we're all sitting in the same boat.
But I know you don't simply specialize in geophysics, but you also specialize in public policy, public affairs. I mean, are there any specific strategies to convince authorities to do something about this if science and common sense doesn't win?
Well, follow the trail of the money. Whenever you spend money, then you have to spend it wisely, or you put actually some either tax, which is this no-no word, in the United States, you put some tax on it, or when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions, you put actually a cap and trade on it. You get charged for emitting CO2 or other greenhouse gases. And that money then can be spent to fix the problems that we have put ourselves by putting all that greenhouse gas into the atmosphere, warming the atmosphere, and thereby raising the sea level rise. There has to be a balance between what we have done to make us lose all those monies in disasters, and if we tax those processes like greenhouse gas emissions rightly, then I think we have funds in fixing up the problem and making us safer.
Professor Jacob, thank you very much. And that's it from the team in Washington, D.C. for now. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Facebook, where you can find more information